Nikola just scrapped the Badger pickup. And meanwhile, GM took off their beer goggles, realised who they woke up to, and are currently doing the walk of shame in last night's clothes. Nikola Corporation today announced the signing of a non-binding Memorandum of Understanding with General Motors for a global supply agreement related to the integration of GM's Hydrotech fuel cell system into Nikola's commercial semi-trucks. This supersedes and replaces the transaction announced on September the 8th. So GM pulling out of the original deal and a new deal that isn't really a deal? And what does it even mean for the EV industry? Stick around and we'll discuss. Plus, on today's news episode, Made in China Model 3s just arrived in Europe. Model Y is testing at Giga Shanghai, and Volkswagen Group commenced climate-friendly MEB production at two of their Chinese plants. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Monday, 30th of November. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV story so you don't have to. So, big story today, Nikola killing the Badger, and they say they will return any deposits. There's a new deal on the table, and it involves no equity stake for GM, no building the Badger, and if you read the fine print, no deal at all. This is just a document to say that they are agreeing to work together and that Nikola will possibly become a customer of GM's. It's a memorandum of understanding. It's a prenup at best. Let me take you back to September the 8th, 2020, and a fanfare of GM working with Nikola. They were meant to be supplying batteries for the Badger, they were supplying the chassis, they were supplying the fuel cell systems. For Nikola, they were supplying a factory to build everything in. Meanwhile, people were wondering, what exactly is Nikola doing for this, apart from supplying the name and the design and the marketing of it? Well, GM were going to be handsomely rewarded with an 11% stake in Nikola and a $700 million check as well. But what's the point in having 11%? Of nothing. It's just a big old write-down that you have to do on your books when Nikola collapses. Well, when Nikola comes crashing down, GM will now no longer be involved. Nikola will be nothing more than a customer of theirs. And, well, if a customer goes bust, nothing to do with us, Gov. So there was the drama of a report by short sellers, admittedly, calling Nikola a fraud, which Nikola said they offered a full rebuttal to. But really, that rebuttal, in terms of the most heinous crime they were accused of, which was rolling one of their trucks down a hill for a promo video, not under its own steam, as it were. They were like, well, yeah, we did nothing wrong. Of course it didn't run. We just rolled it down the hill. We never said it was running. Then the founder, Trevor Milton, resigned, never to be heard of again. Well, I haven't heard of him. Where is Trevor? Hello, if you're watching. And now it's all out of the window. Look, if I was being cruel, I'd invoke the phrase, headless chickens, but I'll be kind. I'm sure GM know what they're doing. Highlights from the press release include this. The Memorandum of Understanding does not include the previously contemplated GM equity stake in Nikola or development of the Nikola Badger. As previously announced, the Nikola Badger program was dependent on an OEM partnership. Nikola will refund all previously submitted order deposits for the Nikola Badger. That's interesting, right? Because when other car makers that have needed a partnership to get to where they're going, I think recently of the Fisker Ocean, they said in their, it was either filing just before or after their SPAC deal, when they said, yeah, we could be working with VW and using their platform to make our car. And VW came out and went, no, not us. So Fisker went, hey, don't worry, we've got an alternative. And they did. They eventually found they're using Magna in Austria to assemble their cars. Great company. And so if Nikola really wanted to get the Badger to market, there's ways of doing it. But just with GM pulling out, it's good night, Badger. And they don't seem to be pursuing it. Interestingly, the Nikola press release is the one that I saw getting all the press coverage. So the EV blogs and financial websites picked up theirs. GM issued a press release that was, to begin with, it was the same. But it kind of went in a different direction to Nikola's press release. Let me read you GM's. Under the potential agreement referenced in the Memorandum of Understanding, GM would engineer its Hydrotech fuel cell system to the specifications mutually agreed upon by both companies. GM and Nikola will discuss the appropriate scope of services that GM would provide for the integration of the fuel cell system into Nikola's vehicles. Expected the potential arrangement would be cost plus, and that Nikola would pay upfront for the capital investment for the capacity. GM and Nikola will also discuss the potential of a supply agreement for GM's versatile Ultium battery system for their Class 7 and 8 trucks. So reading that, it's a case of, if you want our stuff, you just have to pay the price for it. And by the way, we want the money up front. No credit here, thanks. Cash only. And also, we'll talk about using the Ultium batteries. Possibly. There's nothing committed in here. This is a way for GM, in my opinion, to walk away with their head not held high. At least walk away from the deal in 4 to 6 months. This will all be forgotten about when Nikola can't meet certain terms. And hopefully, more EV companies can bring more great electric or even hydrogen vehicles to market, especially trucks, really needed to get stinky vehicles, diesels off the road. But this never added up. All the while, since GM's announcement, people have been asking the management of GM if they did any due diligence. Hell, even if they tried typing Trevor Milton into a thing called Google. It's really good, you know. For years, Nikola have been saying they have world-class technology and don't need anybody else. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're using GM for everything. So what have they got? Where does it leave GM? Embarrassed, but they'll be okay. Nikola, it leaves them as a niche maker of trucks from 2023 onwards, probably, most likely, even if they survive, without the scale of selling the Badger, where are they? And without their main salesman at the helm, where are they? If you want to read any more, check out the notes below, or the podcast show notes as well, and you can read some more details that I'll pop into those notes. All right, moving on. Let's talk Tesla. The Chinese Model 3 is arriving in Europe. A month ago, on October 26th, I told you about the Chinese-made Model 3s being loaded onto a ship in China. 7,000 of them. Exactly a month later, that cargo ship, the Toscana, arrived in Belgium in the port of Zeebrugge, and it's now unloading those made-in-China Model 3s, but don't get them mixed up with the made-in-California Model 3s, because that ship is docked, funnily enough, right next door. It's the Grand Aurora, and it's loaded with refreshed Model 3s from Fremont. And I say don't get them mixed up because the US ones are the ones with the new, we'll call it 2021 model year, not that they call it that, but chrome delete, etc. heat pump. The made-in-China versions of the Standard Range Plus variants are the old models, but with the black trim, etc. But they do come with the new cobalt-free LFP batteries. They are cheaper to make, and they are, of course, batteries, because not particularly new technology, been used in buses and commercial vehicles for a long time. BYD use this chemistry in their vehicles. Very stable, very safe. You can charge them to 100% as much as you like every day if you want. You can't harm the batteries like you could do if you were charging Tesla's NCM cells, typically found in nearly all of their cars until now, to 100% every night. You would prematurely degrade your battery because there's no top buffer that Tesla built in like many other car makers. So which one would you buy? The new refreshed one, or would you like the made in China version with its new technology / more stable battery technology? Now, it's less energy dense. I'll give the batteries that, but you know what? They're more durable in terms of charging, and actually in terms of performance, some of these batteries are better. But if anything, they're no worse, performance-wise. So which one would you have? I think I'd like the refreshed model with the heat pump, the new interior and the console, and all that kind of stuff. But let me know in the comments below. Well, staying with Tesla, the Model Y has been seen testing at Giga Shanghai. Several indicators are stacking up to suggest the Model Y could be well underway in terms of production and in customers' hands before the year is out. A new YouTube video has surfaced from a Chinese drone pilot, Jason Yang, showing a Model Y on the Tesla test track recently built there for Model Y, and I would presume other vehicles as well. Last week, the news became public of the Model Y using LG Chem's NCM cells, just as they put into the Model 3 all-wheel drive versions. Also, another crucial piece of paper has now been signed off. It's the tax exemption by the Chinese authorities for the new energy vehicles And coming out of Tesla, that is typically one of the final things needed to happen before they can put the car on sale. They've been given permission to sell the car, but now they get the tax exemption piece of paper. Tesla launched the Model Y program back at the Model 3 delivery event. If you remember back at the beginning of the year, remember those times, January, pre-COVID, I could leave the house. Elon was dad dancing on stage. Good times. And it was at that event, the Model 3 event, that we had news about the Model Y program when work was ramping up on building new facilities for Model Y in China. That is largely complete now. Last week we saw a camouflage Model Y driving around Shanghai. Why use camouflage on the outside of the vehicle? We know what a Model Y looks like, so I don't know. And when the inside was covered as well with black felt over the dash. Some people speculating a new interior coming from the made in China Model Y. No chance. It's not the way Tesla operate. They're not going to have a Chinese version Model Y that looks totally different from any other. Maybe it was some test equipment or some calibration equipment, but that's what I reckon. Could be wrong. Let's talk about Volkswagen in China and just telling you about what they're doing there because it's really interesting. I think it kind of gets forgotten amongst most of the EV news that tends to surface. Why I try and do this podcast and YouTube show now to tell you about the things which you otherwise might miss. They're opening 2 new plants in Foshan and Anting. Local production of their electric cars based on their MEB platform is now underway with capacity of 600,000 of them a year. Like I say, doesn't get reported, does it? But that's big numbers. The ID4, the ID4X, I should say, and the ID4 Cross 1, the first 2 pure electric cars, they are China only on the MEB platform, and 3 more in 2021, still TBC. By 2023, Volkswagen will offer 8 models of the ID family in China. And it's key to Volkswagen's strategy, their global strategy of electric cars, with more than 1,200 robots in the welding workshop alone in the Foshan plant, and 100% of the paint shop being automated. It's one of the most productive car plants in the world. Both projects were started at the end of 2018 and fully completed in less than 2 years. 200,000 square meters of solar panels are installed to provide the factory with 8.2 megawatts of power. That's 9,000 megawatt hours a year. That's a big CO2 saving, and there's a water recycling system in place as well. 44% of the water used is all recycled. So it's good to drive an EV with 0 emissions at the tailpipe. It's also good that VW are working hard to ensure that how they're made is best for the planet as well. Well, it's the best we can do. Needs to still be worked on, but that's your podcast for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you're watching the YouTube show. I would invite you to check out some previous shows over here. Click on here. You know you want to. And I'll see you. Oh no, leave a comment, subscribe, like, all those things that I meant to say as a YouTuber now. Subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell as that one as well. See you on the next one. Goodbye-bye.